Asha Sharma, I can only assume, has killed Todd Howard at this point. Has anyone seen him? I haven't. I doubt anyone else has. And now these mystical interviews are appearing where there's no Todd Howard, but people are claiming to have talked to him, talked to his ghost, maybe, honestly, at this point. We have Jason Schreier, who had an interview with Todd Howard, yet there's no video clip. There's no audio, there's no nothing. There's no way Todd is alive. Xbox probably threw his corpse out the goddamn window.
Hello, One Take Schreier here. Yesterday, I got an unusual call, a call that I did not expect from the people at Xbox and Bethesda. They said, "Hey, would you like to speak with Todd Howard?" And I said, "Of course I would like to speak."
By the way, not even Todd Howard called him, but the people at Bethesda who said, "Do you want to speak with said Todd Howard?" Well, there's no way Todd is still there.
With Todd Howard. Todd Howard, if you're not familiar, is the longtime director at Bethesda Game Studios. He directed Morrowind and Oblivion and Skyrim, all of those Elder Scrolls, most recent Elder Scrolls games. He directed all of the most recent Fallout games, Fallout 3, Fallout 4. And he is...
But your most recent Fallout games are 20 plus years old at this point. Man.
someone who also directed Starfield. He is someone who I've had a lot of respect for, who I've gotten a chance to talk to in the past 15 years ago, but haven't talked to on the record since then. I've seen him at events and we've kind of chatted casually, but haven't had any proper interviews since then. And there's a pretty wild reason behind that and some interesting backstory. And I'll get into that a little bit later, but first I want to actually get to the news that they are announcing today and some of the stuff that he told me in this interview. And then later on, I'll explain why it's been 15 years since I've talked to him and how that actually changed. So what's the news? Well,
probably because time moves different for Todd Howard.
last week, Xbox and their new CEO, Asha Sharma, announced the big changes that they are making to the Xbox organization. They announced a whole lot of layoffs, 3,200 job cuts, 1,600 last week, another 1,600 to come.
Rookie numbers, give us more. We want more.
And as I explored in my previous video, it's actually a lot more than that because of vendors and co-dev studios and all the other kind of ripple effects of that. They also said that they were going to double down on some of their biggest franchises, including Fallout and the Elder Scrolls, which are the two studios that Bethesda Game Studios and Todd Howard are the two franchises that Bethesda Game Studios and Todd Howard are responsible for. And so this morning, July 17th, they made some announcements to kind of reflect.
Man, it's pretty hard to be responsible for the Elder Scrolls and Fallout when you haven't made a single one of those games in 15 plus years at this point. Man, that's some responsibility I could take. You know, do nothing and get paid.
That plan. They laid out a roadmap in a way that I thought was really interesting. So here's the top line. Big news is they're officially announcing Fallout 5. I don't think they...
Yo, he has the same thing as I have. Lamau. It's really not good. It's really not good. This thing is not good.
They've said anything. I think they've said they're going to work on a new Fallout game like after Elder Scrolls 6, which is their next game, but they haven't officially called it Fallout 5 as far as I can tell. This is their kind of first time mentioning that. They say in their blog post that Fallout 5 is their kind of long range destination. They also announced remasters for Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, which have been heavily rumored in the past. I think everybody knew that they were coming, but had not been confirmed until now. No news on release dates for those two. And this is the most interesting. They confirmed my report from last week that they will be collaborating with a...
By the way, something has to drop really soon. I mean, maybe even end of the year or start of the next year soon. Because the Oblivion Shadow drop happened, and then Todd was talking, well, we're not going to do typical releases, we're going to shadow drop things because it's nice, which means they're definitely going to do something really soon. I think it could be the Fallout 3.
Obsidian on a Fallout project. Not saying anything about it, just saying, hey, we're confirming that we're working with Obsidian on a new Fallout game. We'll share more down the road in the future. Couple more news nuggets from today's announcement. More Fallout Shelter stuff coming. They're doing a new Fallout 76 expansion that is a prequel story to Fallout 3 called Raven Rock that's coming out next year. Seems pretty clear that the Fallout 3 remaster is going to come next year at some point. I think that's safe to say. They talk about how they're currently making Elder Scrolls 6 and Fallout 5 on Creation Engine 3, which is their proprietary technology. Fallout 5 is in pre-production, they're saying. I think they want to hint that maybe Fallout 5 is in kind of simultaneous development to Elder Scrolls 6, so you won't be waiting until 2040 to play Fallout 5. They talk about how ZeniMax Online Studios, which is the studio behind the Elder Scrolls Online, which laid off a lot of staff last week as part of the massive reorganization that Xbox did. They talk about how they are going to, in addition to supporting Elder Scrolls Online, they are going to partner with Bethesda Game Studios on the Elder Scrolls franchise. In other words, they're going to support the main studio, BGS. They're going to be a support studio for Elder Scrolls stuff.
Yeah, we know this. ZeniMax is the notorious bunch of woke losers who completely wokeified the Elder Scrolls franchise in general, canonized a lot of a lot of they them stuff, and they're now gonna be working and helping Bethesda do Elder Scrolls 6 because Bethesda clearly has no fucking idea what they're doing, obviously. So they need all the help that they can get, and sadly, that help is insane. Anyone who thinks that Elder Scrolls 6 even has the slightest shot at being a good game is delusional at this point. There's just no other way to put it. You need to accept the fact that Elder Scrolls 6 and Fallout 5 are going to be massive disappointment. And well, whatever Obsidian Entertainment is making also is going to be obviously massive disappointment. There is no world where they win. There is no world where the game is even average. I'm sad to say.
Talk about season 3 of Fallout being on the way. Talk a little bit about Starfield updates coming. That's kind of the main news. And so I asked Todd Howard. I got a chance to sit down with Todd Howard for about 20 minutes to talk about some of this stuff. He didn't get super specific on a lot. He dodged some questions, not gonna lie. But actually, it was really interesting because he's a fascinating guy, and I always enjoy talking to him. So I asked him. I got a little. The stuff he dodged specifically is about the Obsidian project. He didn't really want to get into how that came about. Like why now, why it just happened, like.
Oh, because everyone who is a tourist has been begging for an Obsidian Fallout New Vegas 2 game. You can see it on every single everything Bethesda has done is good ever channel. You can see it on TK Mantis, you can see it on Luke Steffens, you can see it on Mr. Patty Plays. Pick any typical Fallout. We're gonna glaze Bethesda style channel, and they're like, oh yeah, Obsidian's a great company. Now, ignore the fact that Avowed shit and the Elder Worlds 2 is shit, but they're great. They know how to make games, even though their games suck. Except for Fallout New Vegas, that was good, but everything else has kind of been a massive disappointment. But they're gonna make a great Fallout game, trust. Yeah, this is why. Xbox wanted to, if Bethesda is making that, then someone else has to make Fallout. By the way, this is also something I predicted more than a year ago, and I have been still touting that I always thought that Bethesda is not gonna be making all of their mainline entries alone, that Xbox is gonna make other studios also work on at least one of the mainline entry games, because there's no fucking way after Starfield, Xbox just sits there and is like, oh yeah, sure, let's have the next Fallout game released in 2040. Yeah, that sounds about right.
I think there's maybe a story to be told there another time, but Howard didn't want to get into it. He told me that I'm going to read a little bit from the transcript that I have here. He told me that he is good friends with Obsidian, talks to Fergus Urquhart, their CEO, all the time. When I asked him, I said, "Hey, like, have they gone to you in the past to pitch Fallout games?" And
What is his answer there? Because we know that the answer to this is yes.
he said, "Well, we all talk, and hey, this would make sense when the timing is right." And so I said, "Well, what made the timing right now?" And he said, "Quote, that would be spoiler-ish,"
That would be getting
which I thought was pretty
fired.
funny. He talked a little bit about. I asked him like, "Hey, is like Obsidian going to be the lead on this, kind of like they were with Fallout New Vegas, with like support and supervision from Bethesda?"
So the reason we know that this is 100% Todd lying, because he does that all the time, if you haven't noticed, is because you can get, like, I think at least 2 or 3 separate reports about the fact how the Obsidian CEO is publicly stating, last time I think it was more than a year and a half ago, that they want to make a Fallout game, that they would be okay making a Fallout game. It's just, if Xbox chooses to give them one. And that has been the kind of consensus for a very long time. And now suddenly the consensus for, like, I don't know, a year, from a year ago. No, not even a year ago. Something even much sooner, that, oh, Obsidian doesn't actually want to make any Fallout games at this point, which probably is a lie.
This Bethesda Game Studios, or is it going to be more of like a collaborative thing? What is that going to look like? He said, quote, it's going to be a collaboration and we're starting that now. And then he said, I would say the Fallout franchise all up is managed out of here and our staff and our franchise team. So essentially Fallout is still going to be managed at BGS. It's still going to be supervised by BGS. TBD how much of kind of the creative vision will be executed by, will be laid out by BGS versus Obsidian. I asked him about the engine, which I know a lot of people have been wondering if this new Obsidian Fallout game is going to be on the Bethesda proprietary creation engine toolset, or if it's going to be the Unreal engine, which Obsidian is more accustomed to. An engine, in case you're not familiar, a lot of times people use this kind of video game lingo, assuming that people know what they're talking about. And a lot of times people have no idea what an engine means, but they talk about it anyway. Essentially, an engine is kind of the
I I think I'm not a tech guy, but I know what an engine is, or and how it actually, blah blah blah. I'm pretty sure most of us know what an engine is, right?
framework of technology and tools that you use to create a game. It's very important on if you're actually working with the game and the technology and the tools. I think from a consumer perspective, a little bit less important than maybe people out there like to make it seem, enthusiast gamers and YouTubers and the like. But still, you can there are aspects of an engine that are visible to the customer, and when something is on the creation engine, I think there are indications of that in the way that the certain aspects of the technology work. But anyway, he wouldn't answer that. He said, "We'll talk about that when we."
Also, no one's talking about this, but the new Fallout game and the new Elder Scrolls is made on Creation Engine 3. It's gonna be a disaster because the Creation Engine just looks outdated. Starfield was made on Creation Engine 1.5, technically. They upgraded their engine to do Starfield, which, by the way, doesn't fucking make sense. And then you have Creation Engine 3 or something like that from. The jump is just unreal. In any case, whatever minor tweaks they did to the Creation Engine 2 to get to the point where they're making Elder Scrolls 6 is 100% not gonna be enough graphical fidelity. It's gonna suck. It's probably gonna barely look better than Starfield, if better at all, honestly. We're talking about some pretty fucking outdated graphics. And again, the fastest we can get an Elder Scrolls 6 is probably 2 years if we're lucky. Most likely, realistically, 3 if they're dropping some kind of Fallout 3 remaster in half a year or a year at this point. So most likely 3-ish years, and there's probably going to be a delay. So most likely, realistically, 4 years. In 4 years, this already outdated graphic is going to be severely outdated. So this is a major red flag because Bethesda's proprietary engines. Why did they use the word proprietary? I don't understand. It's just their fucking own engine, not Unreal Engine 5. Their own engine is shit. That's kind of the long and short of it. There's no way they meaningfully upgraded it in the past, I don't know, since Starfield came out, less than a year or so. There's no way they upgraded it. So it's bad. It's gonna look bad.
We talk about the game. And yeah, I mean, when I asked him about like how this all came together, if Obsidian had pitched games in the Fallout franchise before, and if BGS had said no to that, and no real answer. He said, we when I talked to Fergus and other people, what we would make when having those conversations, now is the right time. I asked him a little bit about why it's been so long since we've gotten a new Fallout game, especially with this hit show. A lot of people have been wondering, why was there new Fallout? No new Fallout game
Please, Todd, say that you got a new game in Fallout 76.
to coincide with the release of the Amazon show. He talked a little bit about Fallout 76 being enormous and putting a lot of resources into that. And he talked about...
Also, by the way, a prediction that I made, that the Fallout TV show is gonna kill Fallout 76, because the season 2 is not gonna be even close to season 1, and it wasn't, by the way. And because of season 1's success, Bethesda now is putting a lot of fucking resources in Fallout 76. And I mean, just that's corroboration. Again, you can predict a lot of this shit just from financial understanding of how companies do stuff with money. And again, as you can see, right on it, boys.
He said, I look at it from what does the franchise look like to the audience? I view TV as one chapter, and I view when is a franchise really, really healthy, and when can we execute whatever we're doing, whether it's a mobile game or a TV show or remasters, making sure that we execute those at the highest level. He said our focus was 76 and the remasters and Fallout 5, and it's not that we wouldn't want...
I, by the way, love his fucking decorated room, okay? Better than my prison cell, obviously, but you know, you got a book. I remember I watched the Jason Schreier video. I don't remember if I reacted to it, but he had 2 copies of the same fucking book here. Hilarious. Maybe he still has. I'm not sure. Oh, but anyway, yeah, he has a bunch of shit. And then he has a guitar here because, I mean, fucking obviously, right? There's his, and here up here is probably his diploma on being a investigative journalist or whatever. It's great.
on it. It's finding the right pocket, timing, and everything that goes along with that. Couple other tidbits from our interview. I asked him a little bit about the layoffs because BGS actually laid off a few dozen people last week, including some long timers, some people who had been with the studio for a very long time. He said it's difficult for him, difficult for people who work together. He talked about how it's Bethesda's 40th anniversary and how there have been periods where we've gone through changes. He talks about how, like, in back in the 90s, the company almost went out of business, and then it became kind of ZeniMax 2.0, and now we're going through a change so that we focus best on the franchises and what we need to do to deliver for everybody. I talked to him a little bit about what it's been like managing a studio that has expanded from less than 100 people on Skyrim to now hundreds of people across multiple locations, offices all around North America, for Starfield and now future games. It was interesting hearing his perspective on that. He talked a little bit about how, like, everybody has their own opinion on, like, what the right team size is, and how when he started at Bethesda back in the day, there was a team of maybe 10 people on a Terminator game, and then when that team doubles, going from 10 to 20, that's like, holy crap, like, we just went from 10 to 20, that's unbelievable. And then it goes to 40, 60, 80, 100, and he talks about how, quote, there's always a period where everyone has their own opinion, that was the right one. And he talks about the progression, and he talks about how, like, when they did expand from just having that Rockville, Maryland studio to 4 different studios at Bethesda, we went through a lot of growing pains. I won't sugarcoat it. It was tricky. We made a lot of mistakes. And he talked about how, like, they have a lot of learning to do.
You know what's a neat little corporate trick that they constantly use? When they talk about situations like this, they're gonna admit that previously, like 10 years ago, oh, we made mistakes. Because 10 years ago, who gives a shit at this point, right? But now, I mean, it's not really mistakes. It's maybe not the best, but it's not really mistakes. But 10 years ago, we made mistakes. 10 years into the future, they're gonna say that this was also a mistake. It always happens. Take accountability for things that don't matter, and don't take accountability for things that do matter. It's the oldest trick in the book.
Do a lot of kind of now they're working with a lot of co-development partners, and still much learning to do. I personally find that to be a very interesting conversation, the topic of team sizes, and that's something I'll definitely address further down the road in future videos and reporting. I've written some stuff about that as well. I asked him a little bit about the state of Elder Scrolls 6. He didn't want to talk about the timing. He talked about how, like, as most people know, Todd Howard prefers to wait to talk about these games until as close to release as possible. But he said, like, they felt like this was a good time to just kind of like lay out this roadmap. And finally, I asked him about retirement, and he told me, quote, "The truth is, there was a period of time a while back where I pondered, what does it look like? Not is it imminent, but what does it look like? And I no longer do. I see the work we're doing. I just love it. I love working with these people. It's really not something I think about." And he says,
A lot of people don't understand, by the way, these opinions. They think they're fake. Now, Todd Howard is not lying. He may lie about everything, but he's not lying about that. People don't lie about this. There's a specific reason. Either you get it or you don't.
some folks in our industry that are a little older than me, they're just making great stuff too. So it's not something I've been thinking about. So yeah, interesting conversation there. Make sure to check out my story at Bloomberg this morning if you want to see the written version of that interview and this big news. So here's a little backstory on why this is such a strange thing that happened. In 2013, I did a series of stories about Bethesda, including.
Do we care about Jason Schreier's own opinions? I kind of don't.
And so my story thing, other than just kind of the first script for spoil the story for Fallout 4, and then actually and Blacklist Kotaku and why it's important to us, yada yada yada. 11, and it was really cool. Blacklist continued conversations with them, trying to then yesterday talking.
By the way, so this is it. That's the interview. You asked Todd fucking Howard 3 questions, and he answered none, except about retirement. I mean, again, I don't even. I don't think he's lying, but was it even on a voice call, or did he just get to, Skype message send those questions at this point? What are we talking? It seems unbelievable. I think Todd's dead. I think Ash is stuffing him in a fucking garbage bag at this point. Anyway, 10 out of 10. That was Jason Schreier. Have a nice day. Bye.